Yeah, awkwardly waiting for the seconds to go away. So we give it a few more seconds before we start. But I think now the number of people saturated, so I think we are good to go now. Okay, so we start. Thank you very much, and happy that you're here. Welcome to our Snyk webcast of today. And the topic that we want to present you in the next hour, including questions, if you have some, we are happy to take any question and answer them, is the topic of SecOps teams. And we want to follow a day in the life of a developer, a DevSecOps professional, a DevOps professional, DevOps engineer, as well as the security professional that is working with the team. So from this perspective, from the perspective of the practitioner, from the perspective of the people, so to say, in the trenches, we want to make this, and this will be a heavily demo-loaded session. So expect that, I would say 70% of the session will be us screen sharing and showing a demo where we show you how somebody would interact with the tool, somebody would use them in a daily life. So with me, I have Matthias Konrad, one of our staff solution engineers situated in Germany. So today you will be, so to say, served by the Germans. My name is Frank Fischer. I'm also German. I'm in the product marketing for Snyk Code, so for the static code solution, static application security testing solution that Snyk has. Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, we want to start with a bit of housekeeping. First of all, the session is recorded. The link will be shared later on. So if you want to share this with colleagues or so, please go ahead, no question. If you have any question, please feel free. You know, there's a Q&A box in this client here. Just pop the question in the Q&A box. We have lots of questions, and this is really good. I like this kind of interactive discussion, and this session is for you. You know, so make the best out of it. Get every question answered as much as possible. There's also a chat feature for comments, non-technical questions, any feedback. You know, if you see the same problem in your space, you know, give us a thumbs up or something like this. Comment. You know, no question about this. And we have actually two little surveys in here where we really would appreciate if you, so to say, take part of it and give us your feedback, because it helps us also to steer the content a bit. So this is the survey number 1, where we want to ask you, you know, who are you? What is the field that you are working in? Front and back end development, DevOps developer, security professional, AppSec security professional, executive, or none of these, like myself, you know, like the marketing guy or something like this. So just give us a kind of an idea where you are, where you land. And we give it a few more seconds so that everybody has a chance to answer it. But it seems to be a quite equal field, you know. So we have a good amount of DevOps engineers, a good amount of security professionals, then developers, and yeah, some management, some executives around here. So this is I think a good equalized field that we have here. Perfect. So I would say let's end this poll and let's get into it. So the first thing I want to start with, and it will only take a few minutes, but we were asked so often about Snyk. What is Snyk? Who is Snyk? What is Snyk doing? So we will spend 5 minutes just to introduce Snyk a bit, but this is not the main topic of today. The main topic of today will be number 2, the demo, where we literally follow the life of like 2, maybe 2.5 roles, the front end, back end developer, looking at, you know, how would somebody like this interact with the tool? How would you use it in your daily environment? And then we switch to Matthias, and he will play the role of the DevOps engineer and like the security professional part of it. So that will be the main part, and then we sum it up and go for questions that hopefully come in mass. Okay, so intro to Snyk. When you think about DevOps, you think about a very nice and agile graphic, this lying 8, this infinity figure. And the idea is that you have a process, an agile process that runs from plan, code, build, test, release, deploy, operate, monitor, and it starts again, and everything is nice and everything works out smoothly. The problem arises when you start to think about security in this in this nice process, and the reason is that we have on the one side millions of developers. According to one statistics I saw, there are literally 100 developers per security professional. So when you go the traditional way, that literally the security is kind of saved until one point inside of this process here, say the testing, you do the development, you do the unit tests and all of that stuff, and then you're getting in the testing, and there you have your testing for security bugs. What you're literally doing is you are breaking this nice and smooth process into a waterfall. Because with this, what happens is that everything needs to wait for the security test to happen, for the triage to be done, and then probably you have more or less tickets to send back into the development, and the development has to kind of review the code and work again on it and send it again and blah, blah, blah. And what you have is a nice waterfall, but this is exactly not what you want to have, because DevOps works with the idea that you have this agile process, this agile work running here. So what is the idea here, and what is the idea that the community, the industry is kind of talking about? Some people call it SecDevOps. We call it DevSecOps. There are several names of it, but the idea is the same. The idea is that security needs to be part of every little step that you are doing within this DevOps process. Like a spoonful of security everywhere, with the result that you don't have this kind of waterfall in the middle anymore. You don't break it because everything is accumulated to one point, and then the broken process goes back and tickets and stuff like this. So spoon by spoon, you will have security, so to say, inside of all of it, inside of every step in the process. And this is where Snyk comes in. This is where we position our tool set, so to say. Snyk code, you will see, open source, you will see in the demo sooner. Container and IAC and cloud, we will all have this more or less as part of the demo, but not as individual products, but as from the viewpoint of the practitioner, from the viewpoint of the developer using these tools and using them to introduce spoon by spoon by spoon this kind of bit of security in every process step, which then has the result that the majority of stuff is already addressed very early on. Shift left is one of the terms that you heard quite frequently about this. So it's already addressed. And with this, the security personnel that comes in a testing phase and looks again on things is no longer wading through massive amounts of obvious things, but can focus on the stuff that is really of importance and really not easy to find. And yeah, can literally do what they are paid for, to say so. Okay, so this is Snyk. This is the idea of Snyk. But what we want to do is we want to show you Snyk, so to say, in action. And we kind of split it up. As you can see, two people are in here. We kind of split it up. I will be the application developer. I'm the guy, waiting in code, doing backend development in this regard, and using kind of seamlessly two tools. One is Snyk code and one is Snyk open source for dependency check. And then we will switch a bit over to Matthias, and he will see it more from the perspective of the DevOps engineer and also from the security person looking into it a bit more. Okay, so with this, let's go into the demo. I called it Toha Toha, which is actually I think it's a Hawaiian dialect. And you can look it up in Google what it does, what it means. It has a meaning. So my company, my sharing company, Toha Toha, is a car sharing company, mid-sized thing. We are obviously serving Gotham City. We have 1,000 cars. I don't know, 100,000 customers or something like this. So just that you have an idea what we are. Obviously, the most business runs over the website and over the mobile app that we have. And both of them are using the same API backend. And we will work on this API backend a bit. This is the reason why I have to tell you this. And the point is obviously the cars are managed. We are Internet of Things stuff. We have different API backends. We have different, solutions that we are running here. But obviously, all of our operations is a cloud-based operation. So we are making heavy use of the cloud backend, and obviously, by the front end with the website and mobile app. This is the majority of business that we are doing. Okay, what I want to show you now, what I'm about to show you is I will use the IDE. So I will do some programming, and we will do a pull request to get the code into the common repository. We will use the web front end a bit. And I'll show you the CLI in the end, like a very, very short glimpse of it. So we will see the whole process, so to say, going on, and you will see where using the tools makes sense and how you would use the tools. Okay. So we have this. Now let's switch to that. Okay. So this is my typical environment as a developer, So here we have Jira, for example. There's a ticket for me. I need to implement APIs for remote services. And there's a description on this. And yeah, this is the typical way I would start to get my information and start to work on things. So the one thing that I find out, or what I found, was this is actually the Snyk web interface, and we have like a library that is already present, developed years ago. Probably the guy who did it is no longer in the company, and this library already has some known problems. As usual, these libraries have typically some known problems and stuff. But that is not really for me as an individual developer or something like this. For me, it's very important to know there is this library, and I can use this library to work on. Obviously, we have a Jira integration, so if you want to, I don't know, create a Jira ticket out of this this thing, you can easily do it. But I'm the developer now. This is not my issue. It's not my problem. Okay, I know this library is there, and it's actually this library called DB interface. So this is my IDE here, Visual Studio Code. Used by most developers these days, majority of developers, especially in the JavaScript area. And what I have chosen here as a demo interface is JavaScript. Okay, it's a little project. It's not complicated. Okay, I don't want to kind of teach you programming JavaScript and stuff like this. I know there are a lot of things that you could do better. But the point that I want to make here is, this is a typical environment that you would probably find somewhere there. So there's this library, everybody uses it, DB interface, and there's a manual to that. And in the manual, I find two functions, get vehicle list and get vehicle details, that are actually alongside the things that I have to do. So the task that is kind of given to me is to extend our API in a way that external partners can literally list all of the vehicles that we have. So they get the license plates of these vehicles. And when they have the license, they're using one of the license plates of these vehicles, they can actually dig for more information. So what is the status of this vehicle, last mileage we have, so stuff like this. So this was a task for me. This is an API for partners to look at, and I find all of the necessary elements in here in this library. Perfect. So I use the library. I don't think about it. It will do everything with the database and stuff for that. For me, fine. I'm super happy. So next thing that I did was I coded some code. Okay. So what I have here is I have API endpoints, typical services that you can call over the JSON APIs. So the one is a get. You can get a vehicle list. And what I do is I call this DB function that gets me the vehicle lists, and I just pump it out in this regard. So easy way, easy peasy programming. The next thing is I do the same thing, but this time you can give me the vehicle ID. So you have the license plate out of this. And what I do is then I ask for details to get me the details out of the database, pump it back, and fine, we are. And here I have another thing that is my stub for asking to book such a vehicle, to reserve such a vehicle. So there are switch cases in here for reserve and for book. And again, I'm just calling vehicle DB, and default is a unknown verb error, boom, end. So the nice part about this is now I have for vehicle DB, I have actually a test interface. So what we can do now is we can literally try this out. So what you would do as a typical developer is, after developing this code, you want to see that code works. So I start my little service here locally, and then I can do the calls to this service, and you see it works. So I do the vehicle list, and it gives me the collection of the vehicles back with the license plates. And if I so to say drill down on one of the license plates, so it's actually somewhere in here, this one here, I do this now, it gets me the feedback on this specific unit. Okay, cool. So this was what I needed to do. Test also good. Normally you would have some unit tests and stuff like this to run this. So yeah, we are fine. So the only thing I need to do now is do something where I am here. So first thing is I need to set up my branches. So create a branch. So Frank's branch, and I want to set it from the main branch. So next thing is I change the test to the vehicle. So this is the right end. So it's not the testing end anymore. It's the right end anymore. So we are saving this one. And now I feel like I'm ready to send this to the central repository and get this, so to say, merged into the big code repository that we have. But before I do that, I will switch to Snyk here. And what you see is here Snyk as a plugin into the IDE. This is the Visual Studio Code plugin that I have, and it started automatically. I can start it again. It started automatically to do an analyzation when I saved the project. But as you can see, it's super fast, which is super for me as a developer. I don't have to wait for this thing to happen. I don't have to wait for the scan to come back. It's very snappy for me. It is actually the full-blown scan. So it's not kind of like a watered-down version of a scan. It is the real thing. So it is using the same machine, the same rule set, everything that is used with the CLI later in any kind of step of the CI/CD. So no surprises, but it looked good in the IDE and is later found to be a problem. So this is the same thing. So, and we have several things in here now. So number one is we have a Lodash problem here. So we see that one of our dependencies, Lodash 2.4, is actually a problem. Here's the explanation. What is the problem with it? And the point that I like with Snyk is that it's not only talking about this is the issue and here's more information about the issue and how to do a proof of concept and stuff like this. It is also talking about the fix, how to fix it. And this is, for me, the point that as a developer, I really like. It is literally pointing me in the direction to tell me this is an issue, this is how you fix it. Perfect. I like this as a developer, having actionable things, having things that are really easy to, so to say, to fix. I will leave this in now just for the demo purposes so that we have to see something later on. So for now, we will just neglect this one, and we will look at this one here, code quality. So we have a code quality issue. The body of this clause, case clause, duplicates the body of another case clause. And as you can see, the line 30 and the line 27, they are literally, so to say, copying each other. And this is it's a code quality issue. So it's something where we say you have a smell in here. There's something you should make better in a way. And there's also a kind of a example here how others did it, how other projects kind of fixed this issue. This is a very simple thing. That's the reason why I chose it to show, because what you would do here normally is you would have a fall through. You would simply say, hey, these two cases are the same, so let's have only one line of code, so to say, addressing this thing, because it's easier to read and stuff like this. Okay, so we have this. Probably it's already fixed. But there's something that is more interesting. And let's see if I have the remote. I want to have the right thing here. So this one here says unsanitized input from an HTTP parameter, 19, flows into query and is used in a SQL query. This might result in a SQL injection. So the point now is, if we're looking at it, so line 19, we're going here, and we see here is the help again. We can literally see this is the flow. Two things are quite interesting. So number one is the flow. I can literally click through it, and I see how the data flow goes, how my data, so this parameter from the external side, then is used in license. And here we are, this is the problem. Obviously, somebody kind of made it easy together here. The point that I want to point out here is this is actually multi-file. If you look on this one here, this is file number 1. This is index JavaScript. But if you follow it up, it goes into the vehicle DB file. So in this library, and the interesting point on this one is that if you don't do interfile analysis, if you just look at my code, you could say, okay. Because I am I am thinking that the guy who wrote this library back in the days, this guy makes sure that all of the security checks are done, sanitizers are in there, stuff like this. So I don't feel a problem with this. My code, I mean, it's not the most prominent of all codes, but it's kind of okay. If you then go into the vehicle DB side, and you have this idea that everything that comes in here is already checked. It's not on the backend side to check things. Then I mean, it's not perfect code and stuff like that. But you can argue it's maybe a code smell. But the point that I want to make is, by combining the two, then you have a SQL injection. But to see the SQL injection, you need to have an interfile analysis. You need to have an analysis that is actually looking a bit deeper into the source code than just analyzing the file that I changed, because I didn't change this vehicle DB. I didn't touch it. So if you have a scanner that only looks at the stuff that you individually changed, it wouldn't find this. And this is my point here. So it's an interfile problem that we have, and yeah, we only can find it by doing this. So I fixed one. I fixed this code quality thing. Let's see if I analyze it again. You see, code quality is gone. Perfect. We leave the others in there. We need to find something on our way out here. So we leave the others in. But you see how easy it is. I would fix this one, I would scan it again, I would fix the next one, I would scan it again. So it's a different way of working with a static code analyzer. It is no longer this idea that I do my stuff, I check it in at night, I hope that the thing runs overnight, and in the morning I get a report and it tells me what I did wrong the day before, and hopefully, and stuff like this. It's more like I would call it a debugging tool, where literally you get the report of things, you're working on the first one, you're addressing it, you scan it again, hopefully the first one is gone, hopefully not more are entered by this one. And so you can literally work down the list even before you check it into your source code management. Okay, by the way, check it in. So having a good comment here, checking it in, and publishing my branch. So that is the normal thing that I would do in the moment that I feel I'm done. You know, I am as a developer, I did my ticket, I did all of the stuff that is in here. I hopefully did all of my security checks. I fixed the security problems that I have, and I feel confident that I'm good now. So what then happens is, if we go here on GitHub, this is my GitHub. There is the there's the repo where it lives. And as you can see, you know, here my Franks just got in here. I just put it in here. So now I would do a compare and pull request. Also do this from the IDE if I want. I would leave a comment here. Better one, obviously. And I would say create request. So what will happen now is, as you can see, it runs checks again. And the interesting part on these checks now is that obviously the first one has failed. We can look at it because obviously we had something in there. And what it will tell me, oopsie, okay. What it will tell me is that the differences that I have from the original code that how should I say, from the version that I'm coming about, this version has certain level of issues, and it would only show me the differences. So what issues did I add to this? And something my demo is here a bit not playing with me nicely, but no, I did prepare myself here. So here you have the differences. And you see there's only the cross-site scripting stuff is in there. There's not the password and the username is no longer in there, because this is already part of the library. This is something as a developer, I'm not responsible for this. So I'm not really interested in this PR to show up all of the problems of the whole application. I only want to make sure that with this PR, I don't introduce new problems to the application. And this is why we only show these kind of differences that are there with this PR request. Another thing, and I have to admit it's a bit against the dev guys here. Another thing is when you are checking in something and it looks like this, and your code reviewer will point out that the security checks didn't run and stuff like this. It's a bit of a, how should I say, slap in the face as a developer to say, you know, as a code reviewer, you are kind of pointing out the most obvious stuff because this came from a tool and you should have known this before and you should have addressed it. So the point that I want to make with this is it's also helping developers to get into this kind of security culture, to think about having security checks before checking it in, because, you know, I don't want to be seen as somebody bringing in new problems every time I bring in my code. My code should be nice. My code should be good. So in this perspective, this also helps me to kind of get the idea to the developers in saying you should check your code before you check it in accordingly. Okay, one last thing that I wanted to show, and for that I need to go back to this one. Is slideshow. The next step you would normally do. So I showed you the IDE, I showed you the PR side, web interface, we saw a bit. The next thing that you would do is you would push it downwards to the CI/CD pipeline. And how does this look like? And I have a little example here. This is actually running on one of my Linux machines behind me. It's a little Jenkins, and as you can see, I have set it up accordingly that it runs the Snyk code test. As you can see here, I'm calling the CLI of Snyk. Snyk code test dot means the local repository. And with this is literally all that you need to do to have Snyk integrated into a Jenkins build, as an example. I could have used other instruments. I could have used Azure or whatnot. You know, it doesn't really change a lot in this regard. But it's so easy to integrate Snyk and Snyk scanning into your build process, into your CI/CD pipeline. By the way, there's even a better way of doing this. There is a Jenkins plugin that we have from Snyk perspective, which makes it even easier to integrate Snyk into your build process. But I just wanted to show you it is easy in a way anyways, because the CLI is there to help you in this regard. Okay, so this was the demo from the perspective of the developer and the code guy. Now we switch a bit gears and we look a bit to the DevOps world. So I stop sharing and I hand it over to you, Matthias.
Yes, thank you, Frank, and I will share my screen. So basically, I now take the role of the platform dev, and so I happen to prefer IntelliJ as my IDE. And my responsibility or my role is basically I want to make sure that whatever we deploy, whatever applications we deploy, we happen to use AWS for this. Let's say we containerize all our applications, and it runs in a EKS cluster there. So my role basically is I want to make sure that everything we deploy is secure and it's also following best practices. And so I have a project here open in IntelliJ. This is the infrastructure where I define what should be deployed in the cluster, and I have the Toha app or whatever I need to take care of here open in my IDE. Now I have a few Jira tickets open regarding security things, and this is what I want to focus on for now before we push this app update into production. Now, I have a few Terraform files in here. I also have a Kubernetes or 2 Kubernetes YAML files, and this is what I want to currently focus on for the moment. So basically, I have this deployment YAML file where we specify how we want to deploy the application into our cluster, and then also what container image we want to use here. So basically, I'm also using Snyk here, the Snyk plugin that integrates nicely into the IDE. As you can see here, it looks very similar, but a bit different than what Frank showed in VS Code. So I have my plugin installed, and I'm not focusing on the open source and code security bit. I'm more focusing here on the IAC part. So IAC stands for infrastructure as code, and we cover everything from CloudFormation files, Terraform files, or Kubernetes YAML or JSON files. And then I also use a Snyk container to do a container scan. So first, I did run a scan before, and you can see here, I have just filtered the severity, the issues by severity. For now, I want to say, okay, we need to push this out to production. I want to focus for now on the critical and high severe issues. So let's see what we have and what information Snyk provides to me as a platform dev now. So if I look into my results here, this is the deployment file I have. It's a kind deployment. This is my Toha app, and at some point we see, okay, I'm using a Node 16 Buster image. This is the base image is a standard image from taken from a Docker Hub, for example, and it's a standard node image. Now, this image has a few issues, and also the way how I configure the deployment, we can see there are also a few issues as well. So what information do I get here? I have 3 high severe issues that are flagged, and I see, okay, this is a privileged container being flagged, so I haven't configured this deployment according to best practices. And what's important here, we really give the guidance of, first of all, we tell that there's an issue, but also how can we remediate the issue. So what do I get here? I say, okay, if I want to remediate the problem here, remove the privileged attribute or set the value to false. Obviously, we can see here, this is privilege set to true. It's not really according to best practices. Let's set this to false and follow the best practices. Then next would be this, the container is running without privilege escalation control. So in the end, all these three issues I have is basically somebody who can get into the running container might be able to get more permissions than he is supposed to get. And also that the container actually really needs in order to operate. So what I need to do here is we also get the remediation advice. I need to add the allow privilege escalation into my security context. So I follow along. I will add this here as well. Set this to false. And then the last one is basically container is running without root user control. So I want to say run as root is also should be set to true. Now that I updated this part, what I can do is I can actually do a rescan, and then we should not get any of the at least high or critical issues anymore in the config part of things. And while this is running, we will then focus next on the container image. So here we can see I was doing the fixing the deployment YAML. There are no high or critical issues anymore. I have still a few medium ones, but as I said, I need to push this update out into production. So I want to really focus on the critical bits, high or critical ones. Now, next one is the container scanners. So basically, what happens here is we have a reference node 16 image here in my deployment YAML. Based on that information, Snyk is running an image scan against this image. So basically, we are building a dependency tree of all the dependencies that are deployed on this image. So the information is gathered from the whatever package manager is running on there. So in case of this will be a Debian-based image, so it will be dpack as a package manager, and then based on this and database on the image, we understand the dependency tree and the issues on this image. So after a short while, I get the information here, and we see this particular image, node 16, Buster has a couple of issues, 519 vulnerabilities. And also the same, by the way, if I hover over the image over here, I would also get the same information there. Now, we have two approaches we can do now to remediate the issue. First of all, what we get here is we get base recommendation, base image recommendation from Snyk. Basically, what it says is, okay, currently you're using this very fat and maybe outdated image, node 16 Buster. It has quite a lot of issues, 519. If I would be going for a minor upgrade or even a major upgrade, I can actually reduce the number of issues by quite a bit. Now, because I need to push things out shortly, and if I fear that maybe a minor or major upgrade might cause too much trouble, because I'm not sure does this image work well with the business logic on top of it, I might go with a different approach. I want to address certain issues one by one. So what I'm going to do now is I can also the same of what Frank showed before. I can drill down into each of the issues that I have here, and I will pick one just for this demo. So let's say I want to address here the critical issues. Let's fix this out of bounds issue here. This out of bounds issue is a critical issue. So basically, we see here a lot of information about the CVE is linking to the vulnerability database. I see the CVSS score, and then obviously we see here it's related to SQLite 3, which is standardly by default installed in this node image. Now, we see a lot of information about how this vulnerability has been introduced. We also see whether there's a fix available, and if so, how, in which version it would be fixed, and a lot of more information. Now, further down, then we see what is actually the impact. Why is it important that I need to fix this? So we learn here, okay, in this SQLite 3 library, there's an out-of-bounds access problem. This means either, so out-of-bounds access problem can mean unwanted behavior, like the app could crash potentially, or even a permission or access problem that the user or the process accesses parts of the data that it's not supposed to access. So the important bit here, also what we pointed out, we also want to give remediation advice. Not just show that there's an issue, but also how to remediate it. So we see here, simply upgrade the SQLite 3 version to this particular version 3 point and so on. Now, my approach here would be, okay, instead of using the standard node image, I want to provide my developers, like Frank, I want to provide him with an image he can always use whenever he's writing a Node.js application. So I'm going to use a Docker file for this. I would prepare a Docker file. It will be using the same base image. So it's also Node 16.16.0 buster in this case. So I'm sure, okay, most of this, I mean, everything will work. I'm not removing too many things there on the image. But then I'm running an apt-get update, and then I will install or upgrade to the respective SQLite 3 version that Snyk just recommended. So this will be my Docker file. Based on that, I put this in. I then build the image. So here I have my local terminal. We see here I have my files. I have my Docker file in here. I do a Docker build of this particular image, and I name this Matthias Konrad /node. So this will now be my image that is existing now in my local Docker registry. And now what I'm going to do is, instead of saying I go with a standard node, I will use my custom one. Of course, it's for the moment still local. And I will, let's see what happens. So before, notice this here, we had 12 critical issues, including the out of bounds one. Now I run a test again. And if we are lucky, we will should only now have 11 critical issues, because this out of bounds issue will be gone. Now what's happening here with the scan, I defined that I want to use this Matthias Konrad /node image. And what Snyk is doing is, Snyk is, because it's running locally in the IDE, Snyk, or the plugin, checks in the local registry, and because I have a Docker desktop here running, does this image exist? If not, it would reach out to Docker Hub, or depending where it's residing. It could also be ECR, for example, or any other container registry. Now let's see here what we have. If we go to the container scan is still running, but shortly we should get the results, and it should be down to 11 only. And the same approach we have for Terraform and for CloudFormation, so or also for ARM on Azure. And let's see here. Now we can see we only have 11 critical issues here, and the out of bounds one that was above the CVE issue is now removed. And so I can go ahead and proceed with all, let's say, all the critical issues. I can either say also I do an apt remove to remove certain libraries that I don't really need on the image, and so on. Okay, so this is the bit I wanted to show here in the IDE. So basically what I would do now is I solved a few of the security issues as a platform dev. I can close off some Jira tickets, and then I would push the image that I just built, Matthias Konrad node. I would push this to my ECR, for example, to the container registry. Now, that's basically it regarding the role of the platform dev. And now I switch my head a bit and go into the role of the security engineer or security manager. So basically, I'm going now into the web UI of Snyk. So basically, when you start out with Snyk, you create your account, you will see this web UI. This is usually the first touch point you have with the Snyk application, and this is also where it's interesting for the security engineer or security manager personas. So here we have a reporting section. The reporting section allows me, so for example, if I want to understand the security posture across the whole organization. So this is not just only looking at one particular project. So for example, the Toha app, but I can say I really want to understand across all my projects, or maybe a subset what is going on in my org. So you can see here, I have different groups and different organizations. This is a way how we work with hierarchies or teams. If I say, for example, I have a TOA project team, this team can then work in this organization, and maybe I have another project or application that's being developed. This could happen in a different org, but then overall, I want to know, okay, across my whole group, what is the status of my security? So here you can see the reporting. This is the issue summary. It's quite a lot because I have a lot of projects in my group, 108,000 issues, and we get here a nice dashboard of, first of all, the issues over time, the exposure window. So how long are these issues actually open when they are being found or detected once you add the project to Snyk, and then also how long does it take to resolve the issues actually. Now this you can all break down, and we have really nice powerful filters here. You can say, okay, let's focus only on critical issues. For example, I can say, okay, just give me really the critical or high severe issues for the moment. I can then say, okay, I can filter this down, and I have a bit more lower number. You can see here 5,000. Now this is one view, one way of how you can view the reports. And then the other view is, let's say, if you want to go with a more vulnerability-centric approach, you can go into this view. Now, let's say you're all familiar with the Log4j issue that came up, or every time there's something new in the news, you want to understand where in my whole group do I have a product that is related or relevant for Log4j, for example, right? So what I can do is I can really group or focus on the vulnerabilities that are known, and then I can filter, for example, by a CVE, right? So you can see I can then, whatever the CVE number was for Log4j, I don't have it, but I just pick any here. And the main point is, as somebody from security, I want to understand this particular CVE that just came out, in how many projects does it occur? Which one do I need to address first, right? So this is one bit that we can one approach we can look, one way we can look at these reports. And then the other one I want to show is the issues detail and the powerful filter we have here. So here I can really understand and filter across everything. So I can say I want to only show, let's say Frank showed you Snyk open source and Snyk code. I can say, based on the product types that we offer, I only want to see container issues for the moment, or I only want to show SaaS issues for the moment, right? So I can really filter down by product type, but also by so many other things, like you can see here, very often it's the severity that's important, or also the type. The type means, for example, if I'm the platform dev, I'm more interested in the Kubernetes and the Terraform or Helm config issues, but not so much maybe on the other aspects that are coming more from the app developers. And yeah, so this is basically the view and what you can do from security managers perspective, also maybe somebody working with compliance. And yeah, really, to sum it up, this is we try to address all personas that are related to AppSec and cloud security. However, when we talk to developers, this is actually our focus group. We want to address developers because this is where issues can be resolved very early in the software development lifecycle, instead of making an unnecessary loop all the way to the security team, actually finding the issue and then reporting it back to the developer. It's an unnecessary loop there, right? So but this basically concludes what I wanted to show as my two roles that I was playing, so to speak. And yeah, let me stop sharing my screen, and
yes, so
let's see if we have. I think we had a few questions there, right?
Yes, let us just do the summary very short. I think what we showed, and you just summarized it nicely in the last sentences you just said, Snyk is all about security in action. Okay, security in a sense of a report or something like this is nice. It's necessary. I understand we need to have this, but security improves only when a developer touches a piece of code. And this is one of the, so to say, the basic ideas that we have. Enable developers, might be application developers, might be DevOps engineers, enable them to action, to really do something about it and fix stuff, maybe even before it hits the source code repository. Another thing is use the tools without media break. You have seen the IDE integration, you have seen, I don't know, the CLI block, things like this, no media break, information there where it's needed, and get it fixed. Yes, and then in summary, what Snyk is a kind of a developer-oriented, a developer tool in a way, but with a very, very deep security professional. We have a very deep expertise in security, and I think this is a unique position that we have, this kind of being a developer tool on the one side, but also being a full-blown and very professional security tool. Okay, so that was the things that we wanted to summarize.